Okay, so in my last video, I said I was off about the news for about a week. I had to do family stuff. I was aware of this one though, and I wanted to do a video on this one, but I waited because I wanted more information to come out. Now, I was never going to see any additional context that would have justified this, but I wanted to see, like what the state would have to say. I wanted to know what the mayor had to say, what the police department had to say. Not surprised the police went up on stage and just lied. Luckily, there were activists there calling them on it, but did they answer the questions? No, they did not answer the question. Now, I was expecting the worst from the right. Luckily, I was pleasantly surprised to see most of them said that this was wrong. And I appreciate that they're at least not being bootlickers. You had some on the right that said it was totally fine. People like Tatum, which that take was so bad, even his audience was like, no. Because, like I said, he's not smart. He thinks the police are always right. He's authoritarian right. He's not even a conservative. Because how can you say you're okay with this and then say you're like he doesn't know what a constitutional conservative is, because he isn't one. He's just a statist authoritarian. And luckily, even his audience is like, yo, this is, he had every right to have that gun. It didn't matter what he was doing with the gun. And the police had no right to just come in there and then expect nothing to pop off. And then kill him and then be like, the police are in the right. In no universe, that is okay. Now, of course, most of the mainstream right didn't cover this story. Because they don't care about murder at the hands of the state unless the left cares about it. Which a lot of people on the left actually don't. They just use it for political power. But you know how they are. Because I'm not surprised. The right, generally speaking, the mainstream right, like Conservative Inc., is anti-criminal justice reform. Yet, for some reason, they complain about how the feds treat the January 6th people in the federal prisons right now, which is hilarious to me, because I'm like, y'all the ones who keep speaking out against criminal justice reform. They're so dumb, they think that the way the feds are treating them is unique to just them and not other people in the federal prison system. Like I said, I'm not surprised that those ones don't care about state-sanctioned murder. Anyway, I want to show you the bold-faced lie from the police, and I'm going to be honest, I don't think anything is going to come from this. A lot of people were comparing this case to Willie McCoy. I think, I wouldn't say exactly, because Willie McCoy was way worse, because that was straight up premeditated murder. Like, they wanted to kill him. Police set that up so they'd have an excuse to kill him. So I wouldn't say this is as bad as Willie McCoy, but this is still not far behind. So the body cam captured the moment a Minneapolis SWAT team member fatally shot a 22-year-old black man during a no-knock raid on his apartment. Hey, but mainstream right, police aren't just going around killing black people. And you know what? I will say I half agree, because the police are going around killing everybody. And it amazes me that you have some people on the right bringing up that there was higher police fatalities this year than I think in the last 20 years or so. And the police are trying to say it's the anti-police sentiment. And I say maybe, but they didn't ask, why is there a growing anti-police sentiment? Is it because people are getting fed up with the police getting away with murdering people? Maybe? Do you think that's going to cause anger? And when you suppress and ignore that anger, eventually it's going to cause problems? I don't agree with it. I'm just saying that might be why. It's not just because the left is straw man, blah, blah, blah. No, it's not. Okay? Because the last time the anti-police sentiment was this high was in the 90s. And what was going on in the 90s? We had a lot of cases of police getting away with brutalizing American citizens and not being held accountable. Anyway, in the clip released by police Thursday, the cops seen turning a key to enter the 7th floor apartment on South Marquette Avenue, 6:48 a.m. While serving a warrant in connection with the homicide probe out of St. Paul, So apparently they were looking for his cousin, who was involved in a homicide. Some people are trying to make this justified. It doesn't in any way. For those of you who think that, apparently you think knowing somebody who is a criminal or being related to somebody who is a criminal and associating with any way is grounds for something like this to happen, you are fucking insane. And I know there are some like that out there because I've seen them. So as you see him, because I don't think I can show you the video on YouTube, you can see the police running in and screaming at him. He's dead asleep. It's 6:48 in the morning, dead asleep, right? He has a loaded gun in his hand, and then you have some who are like, well, why did he have a loaded gun in his hand when he's sleeping? It didn't matter. He was legally holding that gun. It doesn't matter if you walk in and he is dry fucking the gun. It's his gun. He can do whatever he wants with it. And it doesn't matter what gun it is, okay? It can be any gun, as far as I'm concerned, because I don't believe in gun control. We're libertarian up in this bitch. Illegal gun is not in our vocabulary. There's no such thing as illegal gun. So it goes on to say, what happens where he goes in and, they wake him up and he has a gun in his hand. Now, look at the moment. This is the picture right before they shot him as he's getting up from a dead sleep. As you can see there, gun pointed down, finger off the trigger. So clearly he knew how to use that thing. That's better. That is probably better trigger discipline than I'd have if you woke me up at 6:48 in the morning screaming with guns pointing at my face. I think most people's trigger discipline wouldn't be that good in that scenario. Now, the police chief tried to argue that there was a cop off screen in which it was pointed at. As you can see here, that is not the case. You can see the shadow of another officer. The gun is not pointed at him. The gun is pointed towards the floor. Because you went up there and straight lied to everybody. Because corrupt police, they always protect their own. Now, I know the right is going to think, they're going to have some on the right who think, no, bad police do get held accountable, and they're going to bring up Chauvin, Kim Potter, and the Ahmaud Arbery case, the McMichaels. Now, corrupt cops will protect their own up until the point where there's no way to protect them. Because then they'll look bad and be subject to investigation. So if there's enough public pressure, they'll just disown them. Because I guarantee you, if these cases didn't gain the traction they did into the mainstream, all of them would have gotten off. Because unfortunately, there were cases that didn't get traction, and those police got off. Willie McCoy, the police got off. Daniel Shaver, white guy, those police got off. They executed him in cold blood, got off. Christian Hall, they killed him. They executed him by firing squad, then lied about it on the police report. None of those police got held accountable. Because if the story stays hush-hush, they can brush it under the rug. Amir was raised with morals and values. He respected law enforcement. Locke's mother, Karen Wells, told reporters he didn't deserve what happened to him. Unless you're Tatum, because he apparently thinks so. Wells says her son was executed, rightfully so, that was basically an execution, by Minneapolis police as she spoke alongside the civil rights attorney Ben Crump and Jeff Storms, who won $27 million settlement for George Floyd. I was actually mad about that, not because his family was getting financial compensation, but just because it came at the taxpayer's expense. So the police murder a man in the community, and the taxpayer, we have to pay it. You know what I mean? This is why a lot of us, we don't like qualified immunity. We wanted to get rid of a qualified immunity. A lot of BLM, the movement, not the organization, the movement, one of the goals was get rid of qualified immunity. So cops could personally be sued and held accountable for their actions. Did we ever get qualified immunity addressed? No, because the Democrats in power in the cities where a lot of people were asking for it do not give a shit about what black people have to say. They'll just put BLM on the street and then say, there you go, nigga, we're doing something. Will we ever get it addressed? The Republicans have no incentive. They've already said they don't want to address qualified immunity. Democrats will say they do, but then they don't do it. So I wouldn't be surprised if this story doesn't gain more mainstream traction if this cop gets away with this. Even though we do have a big protest right now, but no one's reporting on it. I saw like one small report off, I think it was ABC. It was one of those little side things. Crump accused the Minneapolis police of serving the unjustifiable no-knock warrant after pledging widespread reform in the wake of George Floyd's killing, and promising to limit the controversial warrants in the aftermath of Breonna Taylor's killing in Louisville, Kentucky. Yeah, the right tried to justify that one, which was bizarre to me. Because I'm like, a lot of you goats, gun-toting right-wingers, if somebody unannounced came into your house, not in plain clothes, y'all would shoot too. Y'all would start blasting too. Then the police blind fired through a door, which they're not supposed to do, and hit somebody who wasn't involved. I already know she wasn't sleeping. I know she wasn't sleeping. It doesn't change anything. So if Amir had actually woken up and shot one of these cops and killed him, I would call that self-defense. That would be justified self-defense. In my opinion. Which is the correct opinion. Didn't give him a chance, Crump said of the officers who shot Locke. We were just flabbergasted at the fact he was killed this way. Yeah, just like Willie McCoy, except, like I said, Willie McCoy was more like blatantly, hey, let's murder this kid. Because you're going to have to explain to me how you're going to take the time to set all that up. In the Willie McCoy case, how you had all the time to set that up, give him 3 seconds to respond out of a dead sleep, and then shoot him. Yeah, I'm sorry, there's no way you can justify, we had to make a split-second decision. No, you knew what you were doing. Locke was in a deep sleep at the time and had no chance to react to something white citizens don't encounter during the interactions with police. I wouldn't say that necessarily because, like I said, the police are wiling on everybody. But, I know the right likes to bring up more white people are shot by the cops, and I'm like, and? Because y'all never speak out against it. Like I said, nobody spoke out on Daniel Shaver. Barely anyone talked about Tony Timpa. Back when that happened. Y'all don't care when white people are killed by police. So stop pretending you selectively care about the police murdering people when you don't. You only address it when the left says stupid shit. Then you want to address it. But like I said, on this case, the ones that did cover it, I was happy to see. Most of them were on Locke's side because he was 100% in the right. And the police murdered him. Why is it only black Americans that we don't give a chance to live in these situations? Crump asked. Locke's father, Andre Locke, his son, a music industry entrepreneur, as it was a law-abiding citizen who had a license to carry the handgun and had no criminal record. And yet there are still some bootlickers who said, oh, well, it's unfortunate, but the police were in the right. Listen, if you think that, you're a statist authoritarian. Just own it. Stop trying to pretend you're some constitutional conservative when you're not. Amir didn't deserve what happened to him. The devastated dad told reporters Amir was surprised and Amir's life was taken from him in an unjust way. And unjust is the nicest way of putting it. So it goes on to talk about how he was related. They were looking for his cousin, but his cousin was wanted in a homicide case. And some people tried to justify it that way, which I don't see how that works. So apparently being related to a criminal, or even knowing a criminal, this makes this okay. Because that's a stretch. But like I said, I saw a couple people trying to make that case. Because by that logic, a lot of people would be getting justifiably killed by police this way. So the police declined to comment on Thursday, but the interim police chief, Amelia Hoffman, she was the one who lied and said he was pointing the gun at an officer, which he wasn't. That Locke was not named in the warrant, which makes this even worse. So we already know the police are lying to try and cover up for corrupt cops. Because this is what they do. Unless you get enough mainstream press on this case, this cop is going to get off. Nothing will happen. And as far as qualified immunity, it's not going to happen. It doesn't matter, left, right, whatever, Republican, Democrat, they don't want to get rid of it. They're okay. They don't want to give up any state power. It doesn't matter what they say. I just care about what they do. And so far, none of them has shown that they are interested in relieving the state of some power. And of course, Mark Hanneman, the one who shot him right now, is on administrative leave, basically meaning paid leave. So he got a vacation for murdering somebody, which that tends to happen with police. Luckily, there are some big protests, but like I said, the media doesn't want to cover it. There are very, very few outlets that are actually even making videos on it.